Welcome back, Star Wars fans, to Coruscant Radio Underground on the Science Fiction Area. I am Andrew, and I'm joined tonight by two awesome guests that I love to have on here. I got Ro from the Scarif Scuttlebutt podcast and Nicole,
Hello.
Red 5 reading, and all that fun stuff. So we're going to talk a little Skeleton Crew tonight. So don't run off if you haven't seen it yet. This is our non-spoiler review. This is just our quick takes. We all just got done watching episode 4. And we just want to take a minute to kind of give some quick reactions to it. Do we think we might actually have some people over here in the chat?
We do.
Isaac and Ubaldo both over here in the chat. Thank you all for
Andrew. Oh, that's wait, is that Andrew you or Andrew 2?
Oddly enough, I don't see Andrew unless they're talking to me. So they must be talking to me.
I don't see an Andrew in the chat.
Okay.
Me either. But to everyone else who's in there, thanks for dropping in. All right, so just immediate reaction. Like, where are we? We're halfway through. This is our halfway point, and I feel like the adventure kicked into a little bit of another gear this week, and we're progressing. We're not just sitting in one place. We're progressing the plot forward and exploring the mysteries. What did y'all think? Nicole, I'll let you open it up.
Another great episode. I'm loving this series. I think this is kind of like how Marvel's Miss Marvel was for me, where I was just like, okay, I wasn't expecting this. I wasn't expecting to like this. And I am loving it. I'm just really enjoying it.
Yeah. I'm really glad that people are loving this show. I really hope, then we'll get into this in a minute, that I hope people will come back. But I'm hearing way more, for the first time in a while, and a lot more positive than negative. And that makes me really happy. And for the first time in a while, like, my kids are really enjoying Star Wars. So that by itself makes me happy. I had them on. I had Iana and Adeline on to talk about it last night.
Yay.
And I mean, they're both, they grew up on Rebels. As much as they were introduced to the original movies first, Rebels is kind of their Star Wars in a lot of ways. It's I mean, it was their, the whole, just up until a few years ago, it was a constant in their life. And so for them to compare this to Rebels is a big deal. So what about you, Ro?
I am really, really enjoying many aspects of this series. And I think you said it earlier, you said the adventure is really ramping up, and I think there is enough mystery, there's enough intrigue, there's enough adventure to keep me coming back next week. And I know I know we sometimes we feel like these episodes are too short, but I think they're cut at the right moment. It gives you a sense of like frustration, like you want this to continue. And I think that's a good thing. I think we haven't had that in a long time. And I know, Brad and I even were saying that we couldn't wait for the Acolyte to end just so we can finish that and stop talking about it. But this series really is it's surprising me on so many levels. The kids, the story, and we'll talk about the visuals too, because that's obviously one thing that I really pay attention to. So I'm really enjoying it a lot.
Yeah. Let's talk about those visuals, because they're such a, I mean, it's not that everything that Star Wars has done has been terrible, but I mean, some of it, we've talked a lot about things looking too shiny and new a lot of times. We've talked, Book of Boba Fett made several really just terrible mistakes with filming, showing, unfinished set pieces. And this is just a really technically wonderful show.
Yeah.
Even without getting into the story, this is just a really technically beautifully done Star Wars.
You know, one thing that I always complain about, and Sean and I from Extra Star Wars, we always joke around with each other about the cinematic aspect of Star
Right.
Wars. And I think one of the things that I was really missing in these shows were the lingering wide shots to set up the environment, to give you a little extra breathing room, just because, you know, the Star Wars universe obviously is a rich environment. The textures are so out there that you really do need kind of like an extra couple of seconds just to kind of look at everything on the screen. And I think this show is doing that. But besides that, there are some, again, getting into the technical aspect, there are shots that are wide and then they come down, but the camera is always moving. There's always some sort of kinetic motion that gives you that feeling that this is not just a television streaming show, that this is a little bit more big screen, you know, quality type of entertainment. And I think that's what has been missing from some of the Star Wars streaming shows, and we're getting it in Skeleton Crew.
Yeah. So Nicole, I mean, because Ro is, of course, is a video guy, and I'm a photography person. So I mean, we look at things in sort of a similar way, and from a technical standpoint. But I want to, like, how do you look at this visually? Like, how is it coming across?
Although I do have photography in my own background from way beyond. Okay, so it's really, this is what was going through my mind though when Ro was talking. So we had the Acolyte that looked visually stunning, and yet it didn't work. This is working, and I'm wondering if they're also using a little bit more practical effects, because I think that also makes a bigger difference versus AI junk. You know what I mean? Like,
I
yes,
do feel,
it's too pretty to be real, and this is like
the mixture. Yeah, the
Mhm.
mixture of the volume and practical. I think they're starting to get a hang of it, and I think there were some things in even the Book of Boba Fett, the last season or maybe even the second season, there was one shot that was very, very well laid out and planned. It's where Mandalorian gets in an elevator, the elevator goes up, it's one shot, and he goes out and he puts the head of the bounty in the meeting, and then he walks around the room and he goes back in the elevator and he goes, I mean, that was well planned. It was all shot. Yeah, it was all shot on the volume, obviously, but it was planned. The backgrounds were timed out where it looked like he was going up another level. But it was beautifully planned. And I think that's what shows like this one need in order for the visuals to kind of work in a way that really kind of fools your mind into believing that you are somewhere other than a warehouse shooting on a stage. And I think that's one of the things that Star Wars, exemplifies, even from the early days with ILM. I mean, but but the way that they're doing it now, I think, like I said, I have a feeling they're kind of getting a hang of it, getting the rhythm down. And I know, the schedule of a TV streaming show might be a little different than a full-fledged film, because these schedules are a little tighter.
Well,
but I feel like those are things that are working on your subconscious that makes you feel like it's working, like you said, Nicole.
Right. Well, and I'm correct though, right? When I say that the Acolyte actually had more money to spend versus this, and yet we're connecting with this more, even on the visual side.
And I don't know where the money went. I mean, I will say one thing. I don't know if Andrew, you'll agree with me. The visuals for the Acolyte were not that bad. I thought they were pretty decent for a Star Wars show.
I think visually, so the camera work on the Acolyte is fine. There's nothing wrong with the camera work at all. The color grading works in Star Wars. I think Isaac's right that now High Republic era, I kind of want my Jedi to look a little more pristine and a little less homeless, like Obi-Wan in the desert. I mean, because think about it. I mean, that's by the time we see Jedi, the few that are left, I mean, They
Yeah.
live to blend in with the poor, and
Sure.
the High Republic Jedi are the exact opposite.
Sure.
It's the height of
Mhm.
opulence, and so I want my High Republic Jedi to look a little more pristine. But he's also right in that there are a lot of the set in general looks too clean a lot of the times.
Mhm.
And then you go fight in the. I mean, I spent a lot of time in the woods. They went and had lightsaber fights in the woods, and everybody still looked awfully clean when they were done.
Yeah.
100%.
It was too clean.
Mhm.
And I, honestly, Marisha working on in costuming with everything being shot in such high definition now, she's like, they were working on something. I don't remember what it was, and they kept trying to dirty it up.
Mhm.
And then they would go shoot the scene, and they were like, it looks clean on screen.
Right. Yeah.
And they just kept doing stuff to it and doing stuff, and it was like the camera just sanitizes everything.
Mhm.
I mean, and so that is a problem. But I think the real trick to this show, I think it's a lot of what Rose talking about. One, the set deck crew is absolutely killing it. They have gone above and beyond in this show.
Mhm.
The number of things, especially like in the observatory last week, the
Yeah.
number of things hidden away in that observatory. But there are moments in The Mandalorian where the volume comes to life and it looks real. But ever since then, we've done things where it's not a shortcut. What's on the volume has to look good. And if your set deck crew isn't blurring that line between your foreground and your background, it doesn't work. And that's what
Mhm.
happened a lot in Book of Boba Fett, and even a
Yes.
couple of times in the Acolyte, where it's like, okay, we're looking at the volume
Mhm.
because
Obi-Wan
but there were-
Kenobi has a lot of moments that just glare out and smack
Yeah.
you in the face.
and this show does what John Favreau was doing a better job of. I mean, obviously it's kind of his tech, and so he's probably up to this point done a better job with it than anybody else we've seen do anything with it. But this crew is doing a really good job where a lot of times you can't tell where the foreground, the practical, and the background, the digital, where that line is.
Mhm.
And I think that's making a huge difference.
It's funny because there are a lot of things that I guess like normal movie goers don't catch, obviously, that does work on your subconscious. And I think those are some of the things that like your brain will try, and it's like the uncanny valley. You try to figure something out, but you don't know exactly what it is, but it's there.
Mhm.
And I saw that comment is hilarious, Isaac. Very expensive.
So let's just kind of run through without getting spoilery. Before we move off visuals, without spoiling what's happening in the scene, I want to know what y'all thought. There's one shot of SM-33 towards the end of this episode where they kind of went a little horror-esque with the camera angle.
Yeah.
I don't know if it worked for me, and I wanted to know what y'all thought about that.
It wasn't something that Star Wars usually does.
And maybe that's why it just felt a little jarring.
Right.
Any thoughts on it, Nicole?
Well, see, for me, so it's so weird because I love horror, and I grew,
Mhm.
even my nieces, and I'm like 100% sure my niece, who is 19, she probably loved that because we love horror. We love those certain elements of surprise. So I think there's going to be a group that's probably going to actually like it.
And that's the thing. Like,
So it didn't
for
bother
me-
me. It didn't
Okay.
phase me.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. Because like for me, it's like, okay, I found it a little bit jarring, but I do hope it's not enough for me to go, oh, it ruins the episode.
Right.
It's just like I didn't love the camera angle, but I do hope that there's a group that goes that looks at it, goes, that was awesome. I love that.
Mhm.
Because it plays to that kind of era of horror.
Mhm.
And so I do like that. Now, the one thing I do love they're doing a lot of with the camera in this show is that we're seeing almost everything. The camera's low. The camera's at kid eye level.
Mhm.
And even when we're not necessarily with the kids, it's staying there. We're still seeing the world from a kid's perspective.
Mhm.
And I do like that.
And again, I think that's planned. I think when Star Wars is planned, you know, whether the ideas are wacky or not, I think it just works because there's an overall, you know, cohesive planning of certain things. Now, if you're talking about the cameras being low, so you're looking at a kid's perspective on everything, I mean, that is a big no duh, you know, to the series. Because we've got these, you know, we've got these wonderful main characters that are kids, obviously,
Right.
and this episode kind of adds to that. So, you know, it's
Well,
I think it's fantastic.
Yeah, I love they're doing it, and it is kind of a throwback to, you know, Spielberg. You know, did a lot of that with,
I was going to mention also with that moment, with that shot, it also reminds me of, speaking of Spielberg, the Goonies. The moment they find out One-Eyed Willie, the remember when the thing comes up there, and it's a quick, you know what I mean, quick jump, and that's what I feel like. See, I knew Andrew was going to be here. Don't ask me how. Hello, Andrew. We were talking about you earlier, number 2, but that's what that kind of reminds me of. So again, I kind of like, so I like suspense, I like horror, and I love that scene in the Goonies. So it works for me. It works. It tracks.
Yeah.
Oh, and that good idea. When he goes back. Oh, yes. Baymax. That's right. Good catch there, Ubaldo. Good catch.
So how do y'all feel about our character, you know, where our characters, their progression kind of, you know, their eyes are getting open to a bigger world a little bit every episode. And this is the first time, I mean, they've been in unsafe places, but I mean, you know, in the middle of a tribal war, really. I mean, you know, without getting into where they're at, because again, I'm trying to do this without spoilers, which is always a little bit hard to avoid completely. But so what did y'all think about the character progression for pretty much everybody here?
I think it works. Again, I think you know, this show is really diving into telling a pretty decent story in the time allotted. We're halfway there, so I can't wait to see how it resolves. But I think you know, I don't want to keep mentioning the Acolyte, but you know, they're really doing this story right with the mysteries and stuff like that. We don't have to wait like 7 episodes in to get a flashback of something that happened, you know, 4 episodes before. So they're really kind of, you know, they're laying it all out, but they're laying it out in a way where we do get some answers. Because I think when people start watching a series, a show, and you start to get more questions than answers, you know, like Lost, people just start to tune out. People start to get disinterested in the characters because the characters don't evoke you know, intrigue or provide answers and stuff like that. So I think this ensemble cast, I mean, everybody's got a role to play, and I think they're handling it quite well.
Yeah. What about you, Nicole?
I think Rose said it so well.
Yeah.
I'm loving the character development. This is great from both adults and through the kids. I'm loving seeing them build and grow and become stronger and more confident. And I'm also enjoying seeing somebody else where you're like, oh, I see what's happening. You're growing as a person. And I love that. I'm not going to say who. So if you watched, you already know.
Yeah. And we know, you know, Star Wars loves the whole found family situation. We know where this was going. They did it, you know, countless times. I think one of the things that really surprises me about this show is, you know, before the first episode rang out, I posted that this show, I might not be the target audience for this show. I'm going to go in open mind, you know, see what it's like. But I think that was kind of maybe the wrong way to say it, because I think Star Wars in general really appeals to you know, kind of the kid in all of us. We talk about that, obviously, but I think, you know, this show really gives us it really gives us that Luke Skywalker moment where he's looking at the twin sons through a lot of the characters. And one of the things that I was fearful going into the show is that I wasn't going to like the kids. And you know, I went to go see the first 2 episodes on the big screen here in Chicago. And I was just super surprised at how much I latched on to the kids, even in the first 2 episodes, which was it's great. And
Yeah.
and it's continuing. I think they're doing a great job. The little actors are fantastic, but I think they're doing a great job to kind of, keep me interested in the long run.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
I see the thing about Neil. I love Neil.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like, I mean, all the kid characters are doing a fantastic job, but man, they really went above and beyond in creating a likable
Yes.
character in Neil.
Well,
Like,
here's the thing. I love my baby. Okay, but now I feel like I need. Ro was there when I got this guy, so now I feel like I need a second one with Neil.
Sure,
in it.
yeah, we'll find one. I'm sure there'll be plenty at C2E2 in April.
Back again,
oh yeah, by April there should be Neil
Lots.
stuff everywhere.
Everywhere, yeah.
I mean, if this keeps up, like I think because this is hitting so well with the kids that my kids love it. It seems that that's kind of a universal thing, is that kids that are seeing it are really into it. I mean, heck, like you might have actually created a Star Wars that'll sell merch again.
Sure, yeah. And I think, with Star Wars, obviously it's a multi-generational thing. It seems like adults are kind of, liking this series, but kudos to Disney and Lucasfilm in creating something that will reel in the youngsters and have them, this will be their Star Wars. And I think that's great. I think that's great in order to kind of preserve the brand, really.
Yeah,
I agree. I would like to say though, if they give out any merchandise right now, all I kept thinking about today is that I wanted a visual encyclopedia. I wanted a visual book for the Skeleton Crew now, because
and we'll get it. It'll probably take a year, but we'll get it.
Right. But that's okay, because I'd rather them do it right than do it like junk, right?
Sure.
But when they were showing that room and they were like, okay, that's this planet, that's this planet, that's planet. I'm like, I want that. I want all of that, and I want the creatures. I want everything.
Well, that's one thing that's really refreshing too, is seeing a lot of creatures, a lot of aliens in this series. Even in this episode, it was like, wow, they really went to town on the creature design.
Mostly, except for the Eopies. I was so excited when I saw that, because for those
spoiler, there's Eopies in this.
Yes, the spoilers. There is a creature named Eopie, but that's not new to Star Wars. And I was excited because years ago, when I was writing for Twin Suns, I remember I was writing about Eopies in one of my articles. So when I saw it, I was like, oh my God. Like, I was so excited. I was like, that's an Eopie. And I'm actually like, it was, I don't know, it was refreshing. I liked it. But now I really want something else. So yay, that's a good one. See, exactly. Put a smile on my face. That's perfect. I think that.
See, and he's an adult mostly.
I think we're all mostly adults.
But that's the thing. Like this hits the sweet spot. I mean, they definitely geared it down towards kids,
but they didn't dumb it down.
But they didn't dumb it down, which was kind of the hallmark of Amblin back in the height of Amblin was taking kids and throwing them into an adult world. Like we're not going to dumb it down. We're going to throw them out. We're going to throw them in and see if they swim. And they're doing a really good job with that. And I love that they're, I think a lot with this about like the C.S. Lewis quote about children's stories, and that a children's story that can't be enjoyed by adults isn't a good story at all.
Right.
100%.
Yeah. And that, and that's where I made my mistake when I said, this show may not be geared for me. But you forget that Star Wars was a universal story, and it didn't matter what age you were. What mattered were the lessons and the stories and the characters and all that stuff that had a universal appeal. And I think this definitely does.
Yeah. I mean, there's a reason that we still read things like the Odyssey and the Iliad and Beowulf, things like the Ramayana. There are all of these myths that we read, and Star Wars is very much a modern myth. It has all the hallmarks, and it's universal. There's something in there that just appeals to us on a very basic level.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Let's see. So what else can we talk about without getting spoilery?
Beyond the EOPs. I mean, but
Beyond
it's a
the
creature.
EOPs. I mean, I'm not, I'm not going to call that a spoiler, but it was cool to see them.
Yeah. And
because when
is this the first time? I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, we saw them in the reflection, the little thing she's looking
Yeah,
through.
that
And
was
I was like,
nice.
oh, that looked like an EOP. And then it popped up, it showed it in the captions. And I was like, that's pretty cool. We hadn't seen those in a while.
Was this the first time that we see like different types of EOPs? Because I only
Yeah.
remember seeing the ones that look like camels without the long, like,
yeah, these were a little different than
Yeah.
the ones we saw in Naboo.
But again, just kudos to, the creature designers. It's like, let's put in a familiar creature, but, alter them a little bit, make them a little more, obviously we're on another planet, another environment, but very well done.
All right. So I don't want to go real long here. So but the little bits of information we got. So we started filling in blanks on our mystery about Ad-Atten and the other planets. And so without going any further into that specifically, are you so far satisfied with what we learned about the planets?
Yes. Without going into spoilers. Yes.
Yeah. It's funny. I mean, I'm not, because I want more. I want the answers, damn it.
Well, that was the thing. It was coming up on that moment. It was at a moment, and I was like, the credits are gonna roll. It's like, please don't.
Yeah, right. Yeah, but see, that's a great way of really looking at the series. I mean, a lot of people are enjoying it for that reason, but I think again, I like the fact that they are at least giving us some answers to some of the questions that even the fans are posing regarding why this planet was hidden, where it is. It's not like a character talks about something and then the other character's like, I don't know, I'm going to keep this mystery even longer. So it is there's a give and take, which I think really satisfies our curiosity as audience members when we're watching this, to be able to want to see more the following week.
Yeah. So I think that they're doing a really good job. This might, outside of Andor does a really good job with this too. So I don't want to slight Andor on this, is that I think that, and of course, Andor and this show are both run by people that really know what they're doing. And these aren't, Acolyte was somebody they kind of took a chance on running a show. Those are both, but Andor and this show are both run by veterans. And
sure, yeah. And you can tell.
And you could tell. And they feel like they're figuring out the TV formula. Because a lot of times both Marvel and Star Wars have had a hard time feeling like television shows and not like a movie that was chopped up.
Right. And I think, the Ahsoka series had that as a big problem for me. I just felt like, I mean, Kenobi did too, I guess. And Kenobi was obviously supposed to be a movie first and then a series, after the fact. But yeah, it's funny.
Yeah. And as much as I liked a lot about the Ahsoka series, but it felt disjointed. It was like, why did you end the episode there? And it was like, because it was the most convenient place to chop up this thing. And
right.
This one doesn't feel like that. The run times have been pretty consistent. I would love longer, but I don't, as long as we're not dipping under 30 minutes, we're kind of right at that mark.
Sure. Yeah.
I don't want to get down to like, we've had a few shows that have had like a 23-minute episode. And it's like, don't do that.
Yeah.
Like, I understand why that happens on network television, but it's really shouldn't happen in a streaming show.
Sure. Yeah.
But I don't know what else to say as far as a non-spoiler review. And I kind of want to wrap us up here before I get tempted to go into spoilery territory, but I'll give everybody a last word here. But I love this show, and I had high hopes for it, and my hopes went way up with the first trailer. Despite the things we were kind of hearing,
Suburbs and all.
I don't mind the suburbs. My opinion of suburbs is a big galaxy, and if suburbs is where you draw your line, I don't.
Yeah, and now credenzas are canon.
Yep, and I love that he sprained his trunk on the credenza, but yeah. So I'm thrilled with this show. I mean, we were sitting down with dinner. I timed out cooking dinner tonight to sit down with the kids and turn this on while we had dinner. And it's been a while since we had a new series that we made a point of like being ready to watch it when it dropped. And
the whole family.
Yeah. Yeah. And so I'm loving this, but I'll give y'all both a chance to get a last word in there.
One of the things that I think people are going to talk about this week as people start to straggle in on this episode is that last room that everybody was in. I think people are going to start to pick it apart and compare it maybe to another room that was circular that was very important to people in that galaxy.
Good point.
I guess it's not a spoiler. It's not that room, but people are going to start to compare it to the Jedi Council room, where everybody's sitting around. So that's kind of an interesting take. But I'm with you, man. I'm really enjoying the show more than I thought I would. And Brad said that finally a Star Wars show that he enjoys last week. So we'll be doing our thing on Saturday too. So yeah, love it.
Yep. Awesome. Nicole, last thoughts.
Well, I love hearing you say, I took time to work dinner around so I could sit down with my family and watch this show.
Yeah.
Okay. That reminds me of my childhood, like on Friday nights, TGIF Fridays, man. We were having dinner and pizza or whatever and watching TV together. We were having family time. And so I love that you did that because that says a lot. And I think that's what this show is supposed to be about. We're supposed to be gathering with our family, gathering with our friends, watching, talking, and enjoying. And I think that says absolutely everything about this. I'm definitely enjoying it. I'm sitting down with my cats to watch it currently. Glinda is all for it. She's currently here. You guys kind of seen her. Elfie definitely is watching it because she does actually been watching it, which is really weird. But I'm sure like my niece, I'll have to ask her what she thought, but I think she, again, that one moment that we talked about earlier. So, but I'm again, continuing excited to hear from the kids' perspectives because it's just like, I want to be that age again, but I'm never going to be that age again. But it just tells me this has been the right move. And this is going to help their next generation. This is what's going to continue on with Star Wars.
Yeah.
This is how we're going to get there.
Yeah. But if you missed our review of episode 3, the Padawans, we had the Padawan report for a while that we did, and we haven't done that in a while. And they're back. And so they came on, the older two came on last night and talked about episodes. Well, they actually talked about the first 3 episodes with me last night. And we'll be doing that again this week. I'll be putting out there here pretty quick some info on when we will do our full spoiler review. So we've still got a couple episodes coming this week to talk about this episode in full. So real quick before we go, Nicole, where can people find you?
Well, I'm Nicole of Peace of Phantoms on X and as well as Instagram. But right now you can also find me a lot on the Red 5 Reading Twitter account, well, X account, because I run our Red 5 book club. So that's one of the main places you will find me, other than in a Discord, which Ro has a really hard time on pronouncing dis, but it's Discord. So
don't diss me.
Hide in there too. I have like a little hidey hole there, which is pretty awesome. But that's where you can find me.
Awesome. Ro, what about you? Where can they find you and when will y'all be doing your review?
So Brad and I usually do our Skeleton Crew reviews Saturdays. Our usual time is 7 p.m. Central. Work and family has forced us to kind of maybe move it up till 8 o'clock. I'm not sure if it'll be 8 this Saturday or 7 this Saturday. Just as they say on TV, check your local listings. But just turn to your favorite smart speaker and ask her to play the latest Scare of Scuttlebutt podcast, and somehow it'll return.
Awesome. Well, that's going to do it for tonight. So we're all members of the Red 5 Network. You can find all the Red 5 Network podcasts at bio.link/Red5. Check them out. There is something there for everyone. So go give them a listen. And you can find me running Twitter account for Coruscant Radio Underground at crew_podcast, at CRU_podcast, and at the Science Fictionary at Sci_Fictionary on X. That's going to do it for tonight. We hope to see you back real soon. And until next time, may the Force be with you.
This podcast is a member of the Red 5 Network. For more Red 5 Network podcasts and content creators, visit bio.link/Red5.